All right. Well, I brought these glasses. I really wasn't sure if I was going to need them, but when I was getting out of the car, I was thinking to myself, these glasses, what they do is they help me see. And when I went on a trip not long ago, this little girl gave me some glasses that were made out of wax. And I was thinking, man, that's so wild that would happen. And what I started thinking is that God has given me eyes to see, that the vision's been a little blurry, and I guess you really know your vision's blurry until you try and see something. The other day I had to take a test. I was telling David about it, and I was like, it's kind of weird because I was thinking, gosh, I normally can see that. 100%, but I just can't see it, And so I think sometimes it gets a little foggy. And I was sitting here just a little bit, and the Lord said, you have to rest in me to see clearly. If you don't rest in me, you are blowing and going, and you're foggy, you're cloudy, and you can't see because you're not sitting still. And really, that happens. It just happens to everybody, I know for myself, I get moving, because I can knock things out in a very ordered fashion, very quickly, fast. I was trained like that, working on cars. I was trained to be fast. The faster and more perfect you are, the more money you make. And so when you've been trained for decades and decades doing that, it bleeds over into your family life and your parenting life. And parenting kids fastly and perfect doesn't work at all. And so them skills are absolutely useless. So the scripture I looked up and that I always think about when I think about rest is Hebrews 4:1. And I'll read it and we can all talk about it together or whatever. But to me, it's really strange the passage that it is and how it applies to all of us in whatever season we're in. It says, God's promise of entering his rest still stands, so we ought to tremble with fear that some of you might fail to experience it. For this good news that God has prepared this rest has been announced to us just as it was to them. But it did them no good because they didn't share the faith of those who listened to God. For only we who believe can enter his rest. As for others, God said, in my anger, I took an oath they would never enter my place of rest. And I'm going to go back up to the top two verses. And to me, I would want to enter the rest because I run and gun, and I'm like, I want to rest. Everybody plans vacations in here. Everybody wants to have that rest, but it's just strange to me that he's talking about there's people that don't want to enter it. And to me, I think to myself, he has to tell me to rest. So obviously I am part of the people that don't want to enter the rest, And I think that has a lot to do with our makeup. And, like I don't like giving control up. So if I rest, then I'm fine. I'll never forget. I have a story for these two verses. We were in Kansas City. We were literally living in a hotel. We had no home. We had moved. And me and my 6-year-old and my 2-year-old were living in a hotel for 2 weeks. And we filled out probably 40 applications. I had a good job. There was no reason to live in a hotel, but we had signed a deal where we would get a house. And as soon as we moved there, they rejected us and said, you can't get a house. So then we had to look it was just totally random. And I told the Lord, I'm so mad at you. He said, I led you here. And I said, okay. well, I would like for you to lead me out of here, because these people think we're temporary staying, and eventually we'll run out of money. And he said, I got it covered. Just rest. I said, I don't think you understand. We're living in a hotel. That just doesn't work. I've never lived in a hotel, with a family. And the last day, we rested. The Lord said, you haven't rested, so I'm not opening no doors. And we rested for a couple hours. We didn't apply. We didn't get online. We didn't look at anything. And we got a phone call, right? We didn't get any phone calls for 2 weeks. And it was a hard lesson to learn. It was very painful, but I think about this, and I think about daily life and how hard it is to really apply that and really think about resting, because in my mind, I think rest is lazy and it's no action, but it really is action. It really does. I think that we do play a part, and to me, I have the line, the battle is, where does this line stop? I've done my part. Now he's got to do his part. And so that's 1 and 2. The rest of it, it says, this is going down. Okay, so this is the rest of 3. It says, in my anger, I took an oath, they will never enter my place of rest, even though this rest has been ready since he made the world. We know it is ready because of the place in scriptures where it mentions the 7th day. On the 7th day, God rested from all of his work. But in the other passage, God said they would never enter my place of rest. So God's rest is there for people to enter, but those who first heard this good news, they failed to enter because they disobeyed God. So God set up another time for entering his rest, and that time is today. God announced through David much later in the words already quoted, today when you hear his voice, don't harden your hearts. So that is, to me, really, really cool, because he's told me before, John, rest. Just rest in me. You are walking every day. I've ordered your steps, and whatever happens, however it unfolds, I've ordered it. I've set it in motion. You just choose how you respond. And that is not very awesome. That's not a good plan. That's not a 5-year plan, I mean, I have it projected in my mind. I think Pat said before, the presumptuous, where you presume the path is going to be about like this. And then, of course, you go through this windy turn and it leads you back to where you started. Then you have to do that 2 more times, and then you can go the other way. And it just doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. So I don't know how y'all define rest according to God's plan, but that's kind of how it's been for us, is just learning what to do and when to stop and when to keep going again, and just figuring that flow out and how it falls and what that looks like.
It's easy to kind of try to define it, but doing it is the hard part,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like he says it's been there forever, so it's always available. It's been there from the foundation of the earth, right?
Yeah.
But defining, like sometimes I'm resting, forcing myself to rest.
Yes.
But cease from, we have to cease from our own works. That's it, We
Yeah.
can't trust him. It's not.
And this is hard to cease from these in my head, thinking off the scenarios and thinking around this. That is the hardest part to me, because I'm thinking, oh, well, I can do this and make this happen, or, and then you're still working. You're still trying to work it out. And it's not. And to me, like you're saying, I rest when I can't do anything else. I'm bound. My works have bound me. So I don't know. That's what that's kind of the first 2 verses. I could read it over and over and probably get something new every single time I read it, because it's still an invitation in the first verse. And to me, the invitation is, I have it covered. You don't have to think it out and reason it out and know it all and figure it out, But the carnal mind wants to say, hey, we can figure this out. We can process this out. And you can't. And that doesn't set very good, because you want to figure it out.
Release the manipulation.
Yeah. I listened to a Larry Randolph message a long time ago, not knowing, and it ruined me. It just ruined me. And then Mickey, even though it's his birthday, he ruined me. And he said, God told you to give up your right to know. And I said, well, that's not very good. I want to know. And he said, well, you don't have to know. You have to give that right up.
Right.
And
Bill John says, in order to have a peace that transcends understanding, you have to give up your right to understand.
you have to give it up. And that's really, I think we were in Kansas City too. And I just told Mickey, I said, listen, man, I don't understand anything anymore. I just feel like my brain is just this big. And I've never been here before. He said, welcome to the kingdom. You have to lose your mind. I said, well, I don't feel like this is very godly. And he said, it's very godly because you don't have an agenda. You have no idea how it's going to work out. I said, well, it seems that you're very nervous every day because you don't really know what you're doing. He said, exactly. So, it's kind of hard to rest when you got all that. You just don't know what's going on. You have no idea. You're listening for a voice. And it's just very not unplanned. It just doesn't really seem smart. What do y'all think about that?
This morning I was going through some stuff, I guess, and I was just talking to the Lord. One of my favorite verses, like 1 Thessalonians 5:16 through 20. I thought that's always, ever since I read this verse, be joyful, always great, continuous, give thanks in all circumstances.
Yeah.
This is God with you in Christ Jesus, right? But it's like, be joyful, always great, continuously give thanks in all circumstances. I'm willing to be joyful, and I'm just, I'm like, well, I know we must be able to do that if it happens too, so I'm just going to be joyful. I was like, immediately just kind of perked up. But, But it's always,
Yeah.
in every circumstance, it's like he put you in that circumstance as a test.
Yeah.
To rest.
To rest. Yep. I was mowing the grass the other day and the mower ran out of gas. And, weed eaters and mowers, you can't put the same gas in there. I had plenty of weed eater gas that I made up. That was great. So I had to weed eat the rest of the yard. And the Lord said, if you can do this and be joyful, it will give you your joy back. And I said, wow, you mean I've lost it? He said, well, you're fixing to lose it. Because I was going to get real mad because I ran out of gas. And I weed eated the rest. And he said, if you can find joy in this, you can find joy in anything. And it's joy in the problems. And that's hard because problems, they are unexpected and they certainly are not planned for. And to me, I'm like, let there be no problems. Let the day go by. Let everything work out. And I don't know. That doesn't seem to be the way the steps are ordered. And the more problems, the kind of, I don't know. I think the more eyes to see, myself, my vision, and his vision, and how he probably enjoys the problems. Let another one go on him. Okay, do something else. All right, let's see how they react to this. Let's see what's going, not testing, but, just to keep, it probably saves our life. To me, I think so. It saves us from making this unbelievable life. That's, problems are in life and trials are in life. And, all the other things that we think, oh man, this is going to be an easy process, and it's never an easy process, right? It's usually the hardest way. He's like, yeah, let's just get him over here on the hard path. And I don't know. Somehow that falls into his plan of getting us developed and getting us prepared for whatever it is that he has us to do that week or that day. Or
kind of like I read that it typically would be an 11 to 15 day walk from Egypt to Israel. It took them 40 years or so.
it took him 40.
So that's encouraging.
Yeah, you know.
We were talking about that last week when it comes down to it. Because in Psalms it tells us that they had everything, but they forgot how good he was, which is what led to their 15-day journey turning into 40 years. Or 40 days, whatever it was. And, not 40 years, but it took them so long, they just didn't remember. And they found themselves complaining. They found themselves, well, okay, you made water come out of a rock, but what kind of meat are we going to eat?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, quail is dropping outside their tent. That's before there was grocery delivery.
Right. Walmart for delivery.
Yeah, but it was like Yahweh delivery.
Yeah.
Yahweh Plus.
Yeah. And you didn't have to pay a subscription.
Exactly.
He started the grocery delivery.
I mean, think about that. Like, that's a great point, because I mean, how we forget, because I think back on all the toughest times of my life, and he was always faithful.
Yeah.
Always showed up with something like miraculous, or maybe not seemingly miraculous at the time, it turned out it was, but typically it was.
Yeah.
Literally, I mean, miraculous, like, oh, that could only be the Lord. And we just forget,
And I think I personally, I get caught up with the process. How do we get the process to continue or to be over? And it's really the process and the rest, because the rest you stop and you go, wow, do you remember that time we couldn't pay our rent and literally somebody paid our rent without us not saying anything? And then you begin to go, oh, wow. And you become enamored by how he's already been so faithful way back here, and all these stories in the Bible of the faithfulness. And you just can't see it when you're moving in the grind of the day to day. You just can't see it. And then you have to go through the 15-day journey or 40-year journey. Whatever you want to do, it's just up to you. Mickey sent me something the other day that the guy was talking about. If you're enamored with Jesus, things just begin to happen, and you don't have all this stuff because your idol is the Lord, and he can release things to you because they don't become an idol because you're so enamored with him. And it's a process to get you back when you got all these, rabbit trails, or you're all focused on the process, and he's got to get you back over here, and that painful bringing you back over here. So, I think it's necessary, but it sure is painful. All right. I'll look at 8 through 10, and we'll see where that leads us. All right, so we're Hebrews 4:8. So it says, now if Joshua had succeeded in giving them this rest, God would not have spoken about another day of rest still to come. So there is a special rest still waiting for the people of God. For all who have entered into God's rest have rested from their labors, just as God did after creating the world. So let us do our best to enter that rest. But if we disobey God, as the people of Israel did, we will fall. So number 10, I'm going to go back to that. And it says they rested from their labors. And we live in an age, I'm sure everybody has the same access I do. You can get on Google and you can figure anything out. And then you have a cell phone that has all your bank accounts and everything in the world that you would ever need to go to on one device. So that is a super hard thing to put that labor down. because you can make anything happen with that thing. And just to set that down and enjoy the family and enjoy your friends and relationships, it's very difficult, you know, to see that as being highest priority over, you know, working or whatever the case is, you know. But I know for us, relationships is how he's done everything, you know. Encouragement for us, anything, you know, anything we ever needed, it was all done through relationships. And for whatever reason, we've always, whatever place we went, we had relationships, and we learned a lot, and we shared a lot, and we went through a lot, and it was a good thing for us. And somehow when we would get together, and this has probably happened to y'all a bunch, when you're just hanging out, it seems like time stands still. And it's not like, I don't know, you're refreshed. You're just refreshed, just being together. Not that you don't have to be talking about anything at all spiritual, and boom, you're just, I don't know, it's just unbelievable. So I think that's a part of rest too, is being relational and hanging out together and stuff like this, church, food. That was great, you know.
It's like that song we were listening to in praise and worship, you know.
Yep.
Keeping people out here on your chest and just relax and rest.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happened to you. You remember that?
What?
When you first came to the Lord, and he told you just to he had you get up in his lap, and
I think I made a vision of me of his life.
yeah. Yeah. That's hard to do as a guy, crawl up in God's lap and just let him just sit there. You know, it's just kind of foreign to us. I know it's foreign to me. But when she told me about that years ago, I just think that's the best thing to do, is just to get up and just say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's going on. You know, even if I have an idea, I'll just give it away. I don't know. And whatever you want to do, here you go for it. And but there's just, like, I think it was Sunday they were talking about, there's just such a pressure, you know, to know where you're going, or, you know, just such a, just a pressure, just a intensity. And I think a lot of it is the enemy too, just to wear us slap dog out, you know, and to get us into all these other rabbit holes. So I don't know. That's just, that's about all I have. So.
It's like our phones, it's like I was talking to Jack about this thing, but even with the phones, it's just a continual bombardment, or, you know, the internet, whatever, with information. It's like it's from the wrong side of the tree, you know. I think I had more information. Look at this, you know. My little brother was telling me a couple months ago, you know, he had one of his mechanics just flat out told me he was taking 20-minute bathroom breaks and stuff, you know. He always had to have his phone there.
Mm-hmm.
This man can't be doing it. I'm sorry, I'm addicted to the internet. Flat says I'm addicted to it.
Yeah.
Just looking stuff. That's a common thing now.
Yeah,
People are
sure.
addicted to the phone.
Yeah.
And it's what's that?
I would be very intentional with it.
Really?
There's always some notification for something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's information.
Oh, it is.
And all we're supposed to know
Yeah.
is him.
You're right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
And that's so hard. I remember I was in Minnesota, and he said, John, I don't entertain people. I said, yeah, you're exactly right. We hate that. We like to be entertained. You know, we do. And I like to be entertained. And I just said, you know, sometimes it's boring. Let's just be honest. There's nothing happening. You're not saying anything. And he said, yeah, but you're with me. I mean, that should be awesome. But I think it's just our minds. It just our eyes, you know. So these glasses, I'm going to keep them, and I wear them often when I can, because it helps me remember. Sometimes I don't see it like it is, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times he's there helping me. I was talking with a guy at work today, and this is what he said. He said, in Las Vegas, I was a household name. People said my name at their household. I was like the king, in boxing, but I gave it all up and I blew it all. And the weird thing is the Lord was with me. And I said, yeah, it's unbelievable that he was with you through all that. And I think about the same thing to myself. And it's just how we see things. And if I really, in my mind, no matter how boring or whatever, if I knew the Lord was standing in my living room waiting for me to dialogue with him, I probably would not just be bored, but I think it just has to do with how fast and what we see and our just intentionality to just rest and unplug, and that is very hard, but I know people that do it and they are very refreshed and joyful, and they're not burnt out, they're not exhausted. I guess, I don't know, it's probably a meme somewhere, but it's talking about exhaustion. We wear it as a label. I'm exhausted and I'm burnt out, look at me go, and that's just the way of the world. Give everything you got. You'll rest when you're sick because you worked yourself to death.
Yeah.
That's
It's funny, I was thinking about that the other day. I read some article in the Wall Street Journal about how people are getting to the point where they're just saying they're not doing it anymore, that this work to exhaustion thing, but a lot of it is becoming like bad workers now, it's like everything the Lord does, it seems like there's a counterfeit, 180-degree counterfeit that's going to go the other way, instead of resting, just neglecting to do the right thing, but we can still be restful with the Lord and doing it. It's kind of, not sure exactly what I'm going with that, but just always, you can feel the opposite of what his intention is with it in the world,
Right. Yeah, like taking a hiatus. Yeah, I ain't going to church. I'm going to rest for like a month.
Well, I think that's the confusion that I find a lot of believers deal with, is when they often think that coming into the rest of the Lord is what you're doing. The rest of the Lord isn't about what you're doing, it's how you're doing it.
Yeah.
It's the complexity in which we've made a thing. But if you're following the Spirit, if you're really listening to the Spirit of God and following it, then you're at rest.
Yeah.
But when and he could be telling you to do a million different things.
Yeah.
But when you think about when Jesus performed the works of his Father, it became rest and nourishment to him.
Right.
So it's not about what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. And you could say in which the spirit in which we're doing something.
Right. Yeah.
And so like if you're, like even like in Hasidic Judaism, like they count all things being as a form of worship unto the Lord. Or you take Brother Lawrence for the charismatic world.
Yeah.
He considered washing dishes worship unto the Lord. So therefore it became rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate washing dishes.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like I'm worshiping the Lord. I feel like I'm in the belly of a whale. And I'm like, Lord, if you take me from this pan,
Yeah.
I'll do what it is that you've told me to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I told you to wash the pan.
Yeah.
So, exactly.
No, you're exactly right. Because if you're doing something, you're really pushing hard,
Yeah.
that is exhausting.
But that's a crazy, I feel like you said you feel like you're in the belly of a whale. That's a crazy example, because then Jonah actually did what the Lord told him to do, and that got him upset.
That's right.
Well, when you're
I don't
better,
want
you're
to do it,
better.
but then he did it, and they repented, and everybody was saved, and then he was upset about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people you just can't make happy. You're not tacos.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Love it. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the conclusion is do it in the spirit.
Yeah.
And then, no matter what, you know, because he could have you doing 20 things. Just have to write them down. Okay, these are things I can do.
Can you email me a list, Lord?
Yeah. Would you put it in the order of priority?
That would be great too.
Well, yes, that would be nice.
Okay.
Yeah. That would give us too much control, and I would love that. That would really be double rest because I wouldn't have to think about it, and I would know the order from the top to the bottom, and I would feel so in control. Yeah, that'd be great.
I read something one time, I read a lot of George stuff, you know, and he was talking about how he was really stressing out one morning. Like, I got this ministry going, I got the music ministry, and this, and I got the school. He's like, how am I gonna do all this, you know? He basically responded to all of them. The Lord told him, he says, you don't think I can handle all this easily, you know? It's like, this is nothing for me. You just rested me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because rest leads to trust. And that is not easy either. I think I was at a doctor's appointment. He was probably 2 years old. And I was working my tail off, you know, for some wages. And I think we had to take him to it was at the doctor's. It was like an urgent care doctor visit. And it was going to be way up there. And I sat down. And the Lord said, you don't trust me? I said, nope, I sure don't. Because you're about to put me in a wine press. And he said, that's okay. And I said, no, that may be okay to you. That's not okay to me. And I just had a hard time trusting the Lord. I just did. I didn't have any problem trusting him with my past and my sins. And if I was going to heaven, I didn't have a problem with any of that. But I had a problem trusting him with the future and that he was going to let me get into a bad future or something. It was just some lie that I had believed. And when circumstances got out of my control, it just made me like, oh man, this guy is not working. He's not doing, it just, and I always worked hard. So I feared that the most, but he always worked it out, and so that's what he told me. You don't trust me. I said, you're right. I don't. So, what's funny is he took us a lot of states in a very short amount of time. And somebody told me not long ago, before we moved and when we got here, that he trusts us. And I said, well, that's a funny way of learning that, how that works out. So.
Well, I mean, when you look at throughout all of Scripture, you can interchangeably use rest or trust. Mm-hmm. They're interchangeable. They're synonymous with each other. And one way I used to teach it was that rest or trust is like you spent your whole life with your hand to the plow, expecting a crop return. But rest and trust is like you're still walking with the plow, but your hand's no longer to it.
Yeah.
And you know that the return will be there.
Yeah, it'll be there. Yeah. You don't have to force it.
Yeah.
You don't have to strive for it. It's gonna happen. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know for me, I have like an inner peace that I sense and feel that helps me to let go. And that's where my trust is able to fully be there in the Lord. I just have like an inner peace. And whenever you fully let go, it gives you that rest, that trust.
You usually get that when it's really easy situations, though, right?
No.
So just makes you wonder if all the treasures in the dirt, in the hard,
I think that's where you see more treasures is when you go through the hard seasons.
Yeah.
And the hard situations.
But it doesn't typically leave you anxious to go through more of them.
No.
No, but I know since with currently where we are and where he's brought us from and through, whenever the hardship comes or the hard season or situation or whatever presents itself, the trust is there at the beginning versus having to work for it, because there's been so much history and, you know, things that have been, the relationship that's been built. So it's kind of, you can get like a more of a comfortability when those times come, because you know he's gonna take care of it. You know, it's out of your hands and it's probably a good thing.
That's when we remember.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually what we talked about a lot last week, was remembering his goodness, remembering the stories, the testimonies, the things that you would consider miraculous that have taken place in your life, because they become seeds of faith in the garden of your soul.
Yeah.
As I just poetically made up on top of my mind.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing, is it allows us to plant those seeds once again and go, all right, God, you've already done this once.
Yeah.
I know you'll do it again, or you've done it for them.
Yeah.
And that was, even I had a point in my life where I didn't have the stories.
Yeah.
I didn't have my own. I had other people's.
Yeah.
So I would share theirs.
Yeah.
And then by sharing theirs led to me having my own.
Yeah.
They didn't do it to like create like the atmosphere or anything. I was just honestly encouraged by it,
Hmm.
you know. And then, but every so often I have to remind myself, like, you know, I think even God presented himself to Ezekiel as Adonai Shema, the God who is there.
Yeah.
You know, never like your fathers will you ever have to ask if I'm with you, because I'm with you always. I know that because I have it tattooed on me. But my tattoos are just reminders.
That's
They're notes.
That's good.
But
I need some notes.
and so, but it, like, you know, so it becomes a reminder of like, hey, you've done this once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'll do it again.
Yeah.
You know, segue into this. I want to get to the point where we can be that for other people, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where we can know who we are, that we can be that miracle worker, if you will.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think he's said greater things that you do, and I'm not doing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's you're like he was talking about, when you start sharing the stories, it really diminishes the problems.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then you're like, wow, it's weird. I haven't worried about that in like 10 minutes. It's so weird. And that's like a really good thing. And I think it kind of helps us to see, wow, I see everything through this or whatever.
Right.
And then you're hanging out with each other and you're like, it's no big deal. No problem.
It just requires both people to catch the spirit.
Yep.
Because sometimes what happens is like I could be going through hell and you share a story and I'm like, dude, why are you sharing this?
Right. I don't need to hear that.
I don't want to hear about your story of God coming through for you. No,
Right.
You don't get it.
Right. You know what really aggravating too is when you've really worried, like invested some really good worry about something, and it just happens in a blink of an eye.
I call that intercession.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, so that, you know, and you would think, hey, don't do that again. Well, then you do it again, you know,
Yeah.
and again. But, you know, hanging
But
out.
less again.
Yes. I think you do it a little less, unless
Hopefully.
he makes the space in between really long. You know, that's the hard part, is the in between.
Yeah.
You know, where you really have to stretch out, and there's a lot of silence, and there's years of waiting, and then you're like, okay, I think I'm about to give up. And then you give up and nothing happens, even when you give up. And then some breakthrough comes and you can't believe it's a breakthrough. So
Keep reading.
But really-
Hebrews, you see, it's faith and patience.
faith, and it makes endurance. And then if you run out of endurance, there's something else that you're going to get.
To quote Rick Joyner, we see a lot of faith movements. I don't see any patience
You know, I even think at the beginning of this process, even for me and doing the surgery, it was when I first moved here, and in July of 2020, I want to say, yeah, July of 2020, I had a connection in Corpus Christi where I was going to be meeting with the head of some organization that does weight loss surgery. And they wanted to meet with me. They were going to use me as like a spokesperson. And I meet with, and on my way to the doctor's office, the Lord says, you're going to need patience.
Mm.
I was like, I am the patient.
Yeah, I'm actually the patient here.
I don't need patience. I'm not a doctor. And so I mean, I show up there. No one knows who I am. They're not expecting me. They won't let me in the building. COVID. So I had to patiently wait for the doctor to come in. And then the doctor basically says, yeah, we can't do this. And here we are 2 years later. Even at the beginning of this year, the Lord said, you're going to do this and someone's going to pay for it. And then all these people have come together as the body of Christ and paid for it. But it just had to be patient.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's part of our issue is in the waiting.
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, the most painful part about getting a tattoo is the waiting room.
Yeah.
Nothing else hurts me more than imagining what I'm going to go through.
Yeah. And you haven't even felt it yet.
I haven't even felt it yet.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the ghost alert on your, like, you know, when you don't have your phone in your pocket, but you feel it vibrate. It's like it's a synapse in the mind that causes you to think that you felt your phone go off. But it's also like a fear tactic in your mind that's making you go, I'm going to go through all this stuff, and you start working yourself up, and you're actually not even, like, you know. And I think about like the amount of workup I did for my hand tattoos. These didn't hurt, but the ones in my traps, I was ready to punch the tattoo artist.
Yeah.
I didn't think that one was going to hurt. I'm like, that's thick.
Yeah.
No, that's in my neck.
Yeah. There's nerves right there.
Yeah, there's nerves.
Yeah.
I was like, just take it off, just take off my neck and then tattoo and then put it back on, please.
Yeah. Wow. What you said is I've seen that happen a lot, and where God forces people to be helped out by the body, and that's very painful, and He really loves it. And you know, where other people have to become the axe church, I've seen pockets of this all over, and it's He loves to do that, because I think it makes you whole. It makes the people around you whole, and it makes you whole.
It brings us back to being an organism and not an organization.
Yeah, I totally.
It's humbling, you know. And
It is.
The ability to be open.
And you're literally doing it together. Like, not like, oh yeah, we're praying for you. No. We're like doing this together with you.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to break a bond like that when people, no matter church, whatever they are, do things like that. It bonds you at another level. And it's really satisfying to the other people, unless you're the person that's receiving it. It's very painful, but I think it's very helpful, because, you know, hey, I have a family, not just blood, but a support that in my darkest time or my hardest time, we can move forward. There's really no problem that we can't fix or overcome.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what people are hungry for, that.
Yeah.
You know, they've seen the shows and the entertainment shows on the stage, but when times get tough, you know, who swoops in and helps, you know, that's what they want, you know.
Yeah.
I was really shocked, you know, years ago when I went to church and, you know, things got bad and I blew it and people came in to help. I was kind of blown away that, you know, I'm used to kind of burning things down. And I was like, well, you guys are like hanging out. You guys want to like hang out with me still? I burn it all down. What's up? And I just think, that's what the Lord does. He shows up when you burn it all down. Hey, let's clean this up together.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, that's my natural reaction.
Yeah.
Let's just burn it.
Let's just burn it down.
It's easier.
Yeah. We'll build a new one. No problem.
It'll be like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
good, man.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, any questions? Any answers? I heard that from Wes a long time ago.
Any answers? No. Yeah.
I didn't see Jack. I looked over there and I said, any questions? And he wasn't there.
I'm sure he has it. We could call
Yes.
That big grin on his face.
He will. Yeah. If he's watching, there's a grin. Happy.
him. No. Why don't you pray for us? Help us to have patience.
All right.
Because I'm about to have to have a lot of it.
Oh man. Well, Lord, you know exactly where each of us are. Every season, every test, every trial that has brought us to this place. And it's good. It's good. I just thank you that you are pleased with the work that we have put in and where we are today. And we can be happy about the work that you have done. And I thank you that all of us have something that is happening in our life that is probably making us more nervous and uncomfortable than we desire. But we just welcome that as you molding and developing us. And the things that are happening inside of us are more important than the things that are happening outside. And I pray that you would speak to us, that your words, as we hear them, no matter what the fire is, no matter what's going on, we would be enamored by you speaking and your voice, the loving kindness that comes from it. And help us to really rest in you and live out that restful spirit as we do things, not having to strive and exhaust ourselves. And Lord, I pray that we would be great examples to our family of what walking with you looks like, and help us with anything that we are going through alone. Help us to know that there's a family, that there's a body that you have created earth to interact with everything that you have going on in our life. Lord, give us dreams tonight. Give us great clarity. Help us have eyes to see and ears to hear. You let us not be blind to the encounters that you have with us. In Jesus' name, amen.